Have you ever felt like you were being watched? Like you don't know why, but there's something behind you? Most of us go all our lives without dealing with a stalker, but sometimes it's impossible to avoid. These people were lucky enough to catch it on camera and upload the clips for the world to see. Though you'll note, there's one that stands out, and you'll have to wait and see what I mean by that. Make sure you don't watch this compilation too late. These clips will keep you up at night. Wonder if you really locked the door. Park stalker attempts assault. When they're alone in public, many people overlook how vulnerable they can be. This man in Houston, Texas is proof of that. CCTV cameras caught the way he lunged towards women out in broad daylight, only to be spooked and run away when they called him out for it. Authorities say he may have been involved in at least 2 other assaults in the area, who were not as lucky as to call him out for his actions. The would-be victim says he had an intense and urgent look on his face as she heard footsteps approaching her.
He had this intense, urgent look on his face. I heard footsteps behind me. I noticed that his pace quickened and he seemed a lot closer to me.
He lunged for her waist and behind, only for her to shout and scare him off.
And I immediately started yelling for him to get away from me, and he took off running.
Police said that there were similar reports of a man running up to another woman and hitting her behind in the same neighborhood. That would mean that this was just one clip of a series of attacks done by a man who was just waiting for the opportunity to pounce. Perhaps he just sits and watches, waiting for the perfect chance to strike. Ring camera catches would-be break-in. Ring cameras catch all manner of terrifying things. This particular home in Lakewood, California is lucky to have caught the strange actions of this man on camera. As they go into their home and thankfully lock the door, a man comes running up. He seems to immediately try the door, hoping he'd catch it quickly enough to make it in behind them. Once he realizes the door is actually locked, he knocks on it and stands there for a while waiting for them to answer. While no wrongdoing occurred and the man was not identified, it's chilling to imagine that he'd been watching, potentially waiting for the family inside to slip up or leave a door unlocked. Inside the house, the woman called her husband, who called 911. The man claimed he'd been trying to visit a friend and that all of this was a misunderstanding. But what do you think? Misunderstanding or terrifyingly close call? Stalker stares into window. There's not a lot out there that's quite as terrifying as looking and catching someone watching you. It doesn't matter where you are or who you are. It can chill you down to your core. YouTuber Andrew Naeus records as he calls 911, explaining what he's seeing and that the man outside his window had been standing there for at least a half hour.
There's this guy just like standing outside my window, and he's just like looking up at the window. He's been there for about 30 minutes now.
He just stands there as the man on the line explains what's going on without moving a muscle.
Yeah, male, maybe about 30, I guess. I can't tell.
Just staring off into the distance, not moving, not blinking. I think that's enough to give anyone the heebie-jeebies, not even considering that this took place in the middle of the night.
Yeah, so if you head down alley right off of, you should be able to run right into him. I mean, he's basically right in the middle of the road.
After this clip, maybe you should lock your doors tonight. I know I will. Manager stalks kids through grocery store. If you're feeling endangered in public, it's often best to just start filming. It can dissuade violence or any sort of danger. These 2 kids happened to catch one such situation, as a manager at a local grocery store began to tail the 2 of them throughout the building.
I'm in Publix, right? And this guy keeps following me around. He's a white guy. Let's see if you can see him. You see him in the background with the yellow suit?
The man continues to follow them down not 1, but 2 different aisles. Sometimes watching is obvious, like this time, but it's no less creepy whether you're in public or in the privacy of your own home. Whether this is a case of racial profiling, as the man is one of the management team, or not.
Yeah, watch if I turn, watch. See, look, there you go.
It's understandable that the 2 eventually get their things and leave the store. Talk about a hostile environment. Mantailed through the streets of Japan. This man was making his way down the road, documenting yet another case of broad daylight stalking. The man seems on edge and uncomfortable throughout his whole clip as he walks down the streets of Japan.
I'm being followed. I'm pretty sure I'm being followed. I've been taking a rather circuitous route. See that woman back there?
He says the woman had been tailing him after seeming increasingly interested in what he was doing.
And she got interested in what I was up to when I turned on the camera. And unless it's a very curious coincidence, I think she's stalking me.
The clip is short and eventually cuts as the man shifts to show off his umbrella, but there's a sort of genuine fear in his voice that comes with the feeling of being followed, like he knew he needed to be careful. How this is resolved is unclear because the clip eventually ends. Still, hopefully, he got away without any sort of altercation. Perhaps this was a misunderstanding, but sometimes you should just trust your gut on these kinds of things. Creepy stalker watches from street. This urban exploration channel uncovered something rather unsettling from his own front yard. A man in a hoodie had apparently been standing in front of his apartment, looking through his windows for quite some time. When he sees the man outside, he quickly makes his way downstairs and out, only for the man to have disappeared entirely. It seems like he took the opportunity as he came down to run away, but as the man looks around, there's nothing to be seen. I think he should probably invest in some good, thick blinds if anything, or move altogether. Persistent stalker watches woman's house for months. Doorbell cameras to the rescue. This camera caught the suspicious movements of a man who seemed to become obsessed with the inhabitants of this house. He drives up to the woman the first day, asking if she needs a ride home. She says no, explaining to the stranger she is home. However, it seems that this is the wrong response. The man decides the next day to come and park right up by the house. He doesn't get out of the car, but he's just observing. Suddenly, he backs up quickly and peels off into the distance. The next day, he drives by fast, before reversing, only to come back and watch the house once again. This disturbing behavior continued for 6 days before the next occurrence, but it became increasingly erratic for the next few months. It seemed like he was watching to understand the patterns of the people who lived in the house. But why? Stalker waits out in hallway. Standing outside your building is one thing, but when your stalker is standing outside your apartment, watching your door like a hawk, I'd be looking to move ASAP. This clip is relatively slow. It's a man in a white hoodie standing completely still for some time in front of a doorbell camera. A few days seem to pass and the man continues to watch. The original uploader explains that she and some friends finally confronted the man and involved security in keeping watch. This happened over time, so things could have gone very differently if they were less on top of things. Hopefully, that's the end of that story, though I'd probably still have a bit of trouble sleeping at night after this one. Found footage. Creepy stalker in Croatia. Sometimes things don't have a proper explanation. You can watch it with your eyes and it still doesn't always make sense. These men, while in Croatia, were filming their time together. Suddenly they see a strange figure, which they had earlier seen hunched over in the dark with an unnatural looking face. They approach him but quickly decide that he must be drunk, so they pull back to go along on their business. He starts coming towards them as they try to run away. They do get away, saying they're going to get away, but across town, the same man shows back up, continuing to approach them. They're laughing and making jokes, but there is a certain edge of discomfort as they continue to try and get away from him. Eventually, they make it into their building. The video cuts and we get a few more moments of the unfocused video and something unmistakably coming closer. The men in this footage went missing after the recording was found, so whatever it was, it might have finally caught up with them. Vloggers stalked through mall. Under the right circumstances, vlogging can give an unedited, clear view of the things around you. These girls seem to be in the middle of a general day in the life of vlog, going to the mall to take some photos. While shopping, they realize a man had been following and watching them, staying just a few feet away but always within view.
He was looking at you crazy.
They continue along, but he's always right there, no matter where they go.
Why does this guy keep following us? Like, literally, he keeps following us.
Home in the mirror, and he was like, he's probably following us.
The girls try to ditch him, but in the midst, confirm that he's actively going everywhere that they do, even going as far as to pretend he's shopping around.
Oh my god, he's like looking at clothes, like pretending. So crazy.
They leave the stores and he's still pursuing, until at one point she loudly records him saying he's right there, which seems to spook him enough that they're able to get away.
He's right there. He's literally following us.
It's a good thing they were in a brightly lit public space, because otherwise, this could have gone very differently. Watched at the gym. Working out at the gym can be an uncomfortable situation in anyone's case. You're exposed and usually rather focused, and you never know who might just be watching from a distance. Women often deal with unsolicited attention daily. When the man in the video watches her, he circles back, trying to say something. Luckily, likely due to her own hypervigilance, the woman pulls back quickly enough that he not only can't touch her, but he seems surprised by her loud "don't come near me" response.
Don't come near me.
He walks off, clearly deterred, and she can get away. But if she hadn't been quick and as no nonsense, would it have been so easy? Harrowing escaped with a locked door. Coming home after a long day can be a relief. You get to shed your stresses of the day, changing to something more comfortable, and unwind. But imagine if you locked your door only to hear someone immediately try to open it behind you. This security camera caught a man who came running after a woman trying to open her door directly as she closed it. She was lucky enough to have locked her door quickly after making it in, but the man stuck around and waited for a moment, as if thinking about it afterward. It was early in the morning, and she'd seen the two men outside of her building, only to move quickly and slam the door when he came running. He knocked and banged on the door, shouting after her, doing whatever he could to get her attention and maybe get her to open up. It shows that you never know who's watching, and sometimes when you get a terrible feeling, you need to go with your gut.